Welcome back to Frugal Man Outdoors. Today I'm going to make an incubator out of a bunch of stuff I had laying around the house. We're going to use a cooler and power cord, a light, a can, and some compost. We're also going to use a piece of plexiglass for a sight window. And the tools that I'm going to need are drill bits, and a large drill bit for the cord, a small drill bit to start some holes in our plexiglass, a pair of pliers, screwdriver, an awl, pair of shears, tape measure, some small screws, hammer, a Sharpie, a drill, and a small saw. The only thing I do not have with me at this present moment, which I ordered online, is a thermostat. Now that thermostat is going to allow me to set it at a certain temperature and make the light come on and off to keep a regulated temperature inside of the incubator. Let's get started. First, I'm going to start with a 48 quart cooler. Most people have an old cooler laying around, and I'm no different. This one's been sitting around in my shop for many years. I've had several things in and out, use it for storage. Well, today I'm going to put it to good use. I'm going to make my incubator out of it. So for starters, I'm going to go ahead and cut a large window out of the top here, and then I'm going to put the plexiglass on top so I can look down into the incubator and see what's happening. There it goes. I'm going to need one more thing. I'm going to need a small saw to finish off these corners. I'll be right back. Okay. So now we have a sight window hole. I'm going to cut the plexiglass a little bit larger than the hole, and then I'll screw it to the top. My measurement there is going to be, we'll go 11 inches by 16 inches. So we'll set the cooler away. Here's the plexiglass. Now, I have a supply of plexiglass. Some people could use an old window from, say, a storm door or something. You don't have to buy Plex. I just happen to have some that I have a pretty good amount of it, so this is what I'm going to use. The plexiglass I have is easy to be cut with a pair of shears. If you have the thicker stuff that you normally use indoors or windows or something, you may need a jigsaw or a small tooth circular saw. I basically just use the back of my saw as a straight edge. Now if you have a sturdy pair of scissors with some thin plex, that may work too, but I don't want to mess up my scissors, so I'm going to use these shears. Now notice that the plexiglass is blue. It actually has a film on top of it that needs to be peeled. And that's perfectly clear. So now we're going to attach that to the top of our cooler. So now I'm going to use a small drill bit as a pilot. That way I don't accidentally shatter the plexiglass. So I'm going to hit all four corners and a couple down each side. I'm going to put the first screw in, that way it doesn't move around on me. Now notice that these are real small screws, so they're not going to go all the way through. They're just going to go through the top layer and continue to drill holes all the way around. And now I'll screw it down. And now that that's done, the sight window is complete. That way I don't have to let the heat out to look down inside on the eggs. And also, I can use this as a brooding box after the eggs have hatched for a few days before I transfer them to another box. Next, I'm going to mount the light on the inside here, about 1 inch from the top. I don't want to get it too close to the eggs because I don't want too much heat to be directly down on the eggs. But I want to set it, like I said, about 1 inch or so from the top. I also want to be able to put a pool or a bucket of water underneath it. That way it has humidity inside there. So, like I said, about 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inches from the very top of the cooler should be about sufficient. So before mounting the light, I need to have a hole so the cord will go through. So I'm going to drill a hole straight in the middle of where I believe the light will be. I think I better use a marker. Okay. Mount that about that height right there. Not writing very well, but I can see where I need to go. Now I'm going to drill a hole right through here. Okay. Now I'm going to take my cord and feed it in from the back side. And then I have 2 wires, and on the back side of my light you'll notice I have 2 hookups. I'll put 1 wire on each hookup. Do not plug this in yet. And now I can mount this. I'll pull the wire back out and mount that light right there. I'm going to use the same screws I used for the sight window. Hopefully my drill will fit in there. Yep, it fits. Dustin, can I use your hand over here for support? Hold the light in place. Okay, thank you. Now I'll put another screw in the bottom. So now I'm going to use the can. And the can is to actually make a reflector for the light. That way I can look down in through the sight window without being blinded by the light. It'll also radiate the heat downward onto the eggs instead of coming up to the top. So I'll show you how I'm going to cut that. First, I need to take a can opener and put some cuts on the top of my can. Okay, so I'm going to cut about 3/4 of the way around, maybe just a little bit more than half, and then I need to cut a small section on the opposite side. So I'll do that now. Not a real good cabinet opener, it's an older one. Okay, it's a little more than half there. Now I want to leave a space here and a space here, and then cut a small section out in the middle. You'll see why here in just a minute. That should do. Okay, now I'll take my shears and I'm going to cut straight down the middle between here and here, right there. So cut right here. Right. Now when I open that up like this, I could cut through here. All the way through. And now I can open up a little bit further. Kind of like a lampshade type thing. Be careful not to cut yourself if you decide to use this. Now, I've seen other videos where no one put a shield on their light bulb, but I didn't want to make it blinding coming out of the top. So now you take this and fold it upward and make a couple of ears on top so they can be mounted to the wall. So I'm going to cut this down here and here. Oops, dropped it. Ugh. And now I'm going to take an awl and a hammer and put 2 holes in there so I can mount this above the light. And now I'll install this just above the light. Right there. So I'll open up just a little bit more. I'll use the same screws as I used for the sight window and the light. Dustin, can I have your assistance again? There we have that. And now I can install the light bulb into the light. And next I'm going to put the compost down in the bottom. It doesn't need a lot, just enough to cover the whole bottom. I actually think I got more than I need, so I'm going to take some of it out. Okay, we have a little bit of sawdust I'm going to put in there also. And now we're going to test the light. Okay, let's check this light out. And we have light. Close it up, and you look down through the sight window, down into the incubator. And something I thought of after I started this was I might need to put some vents in here. So I'm going to put a 2-inch hole on both sides of the cooler to allow some of the excess heat to radiate out. So I'm going to do that now. And now we have our vents on top. I'm going to cut a small piece of plexiglass for both sides. That way I could slide it over top of the hole in case there's too much heat coming out. That way I can regulate how much of the heat is coming out of the vents. So now I'm going to take my shears and just cut a couple squares. They don't have to be perfect, just enough to cover the holes. Now I will take this screw out of my sight window and set the vent covers in the same hole. First I'm going to remove the Plex cover, little blue stuff here, film. Do that to both of them. And now we'll switch it back over to Phillips tip. I'll line my holes up here and put the screw back in. Do the same thing to the other side. And now we could adjust the amount of flow that comes out of the vent hole, one on each side. Okay, next step is installing the thermostat, and I'll have to do that in a couple of days when this comes in. It'll be a couple days for me, but it'll be just a few seconds for you. Well, there you go. It's been 2 days for me, but just a few seconds for you. And my thermostat has come in. It is a heat mat thermostat, but it's also good for using it for fans and lights. I'm going to use it for a light for inside of my incubator. So what I'm going to need to do is I need to drill a hole in the front here so the thermometer part will be able to go inside, and then I'm going to mount the box to the outside. That way it's easy to keep track of and it will be away from the heat source. First, I'm going to drill a hole right in the middle. Then I'm going to take my thermostat off of the suction cup. I'm going to save the zip tie so I could bundle up the excess wire that's here. And I'll send my thermometer in to the inside here. I don't know if this is going to work very well, but I'm going to make sure I left enough cord to where it'll reach the bottom where the eggs will be. but I'm going to try to stick this to the side. I don't know if you can see down in here, but I'm putting that suction cup right down there. I don't know if you can see, where you can see a little bit better down the side here. And I'm going to put the thermostat in the holder, just like that. So now on the outside, I'm going to drill a hole and put a screw, and then I'm going to hang it with the slotted spot that they have so you can hang it. Screw in there. Now you don't want to go all the way in because you have to have a little bit of room to slide that on. And there we go. That's hanging on there. Now if you take a look at the bottom here, it has a plug in. That way I can plug the light into this. So take the cord from the light, and I bring it around here, and I'll plug it into the bottom of the thermostat. Right here. And now the thermostat will control the light. When it reaches a certain temperature, it'll shut it off, and then when it gets too low, it'll turn it back on. Now I have a 75-watt light bulb in here, that way I know it will get warm enough. Also, if it starts to have problems reaching temperature, I could use my vents here that I cut in the top, and I could adjust the flow of the air coming out. I'm going to try to start with just a little less than half on both sides, and then I'll go from there. So next thing is I plug it in and it'll control that. Okay, so now also you have to make sure you have humidity. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a glass bowl underneath the light down inside here, right in this location here. That way the heat will cause the humidity from the water. Now you notice that I don't have anything in my cooler now, because earlier in the video I put some compost and mulch that I had on the property inside here. Well, unfortunately the ants got in there, so I had to dump it out. So I'm going to replace it with some wood shavings that I have. So if you decide to build a incubator like this, make sure you test it before you put your eggs in there. Like I said, I have a 75-watt light bulb and I have the thermometer. I'm also going to test it for at least 2 days before I put my eggs in there. That way to make sure that it holds a proper temperature. I don't want to waste 3 dozen eggs because my temperature or my humidity will not be right. So I'm going to go ahead and put my mulch in there. I'm going to add some water in there. I'm going to plug it in, and I'm going to let it set for 6 to 8 hours, and I'll check the temperature and see and make sure it's holding proper temperature. Then I'll go ahead and continue on and let it go overnight. Tomorrow I'm supposed to get 3 dozen eggs ready to be incubated. So I'm going to add those to here, and I will incubate my eggs. But I'll save that for another video. I hope this helped you. Please like and subscribe and share with your friends if you enjoyed this. And don't forget to check back with the progress on my incubation of my chicks here in about 3 weeks. Thanks for watching. See you next time.